Welcome to the Leveraged and Loving It podcast, business advice for coaches and thought leaders. And now your host, Renee Hasseldine.
Hey, Renee Hasseldine here on Leveraged and Loving It. On today's episode, we are joined by Barry Magliarditi.
You.
I feel like I just won a prize.
You should.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show. Great to speak with you. And we're going to talk about scaling.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. But first, you launched your podcast last year, The Comeback Game.
We did.
How many people have you reached already on that podcast?
Over 1 million in the first.
Okay. So
month.
my podcast is almost 3 years old. So I need to say, how the actual fuck did you do that?
Scaling.
Tell me. What is it?
And
In
leverage.
one word,
Well,
how the actual...
we don't fully know. We've got some ideas. Part of it is guests. So I came up with this bit of an idea that I was like, okay, if we want to get out and reach, so the premise behind it was, how do we reach a ton of people that we can't through the Game Changers programs? And how do we kind of bust this misconception that if you pay a coach enough money, you won't have problems anymore? Because it's just bullshit. Like, the bigger you grow, the bigger your business grows, the more problems you have. You just become a different version of yourself that can handle those problems. And so I was like, well, what if I found the most influential person I know, who's awesome, and interview them, show them a good time, and then have them share with me their friends in their network to interview. And that was kind of how it started. And we've managed to have some absolutely incredible guests on the show. Yesterday, we had the founder of Giftology, phenomenal guy in the States. He gets paid 60 grand an hour to keynote speak. Just spoke at Ryan Dice's event, The War Room, over in the States. And we've just leveraged one after the other, essentially, by, being authentic, having a fantastic interview with them, and then asking them, hey, like, who else do you know would love to get on the podcast? And I think that, business leaders and entrepreneurs are starting to realize that podcasting is still very much in its infant years. I think this time last year, I was just speaking to a guy, Steve Olsher, who's launching podcastmagazine.com in January. So he's giving lifetime memberships away at the moment. I've been podcasting since it began, and he was sharing that 12 months ago, there was 500,000 shows, podcast shows. Now, as of this year, 12 months later, 750,000 shows.
Whoa.
If you look at that in comparison to websites, though, there's billions of websites, right? So we're still very much in the infancy years of podcasting, and it's so easy to interact with people's podcasts. The average person that listens to podcasts consumes 7 episodes a week. As of 12 months ago, it was 5 episodes a week. So there's a radical growth cycle in podcasting. I think that, for us, that growth, most of it was organic through leveraging our guests. We had some amazing people too, like JP Sears, a social following of like 2+ million people. Peng Jung, the same 2+ million people, like Dave Woodward, the CEO of ClickFunnels, like, a bunch of phenomenal guests.
Yeah.
But the coolest thing though, really, is that the feedback we've had of how much the episodes have changed people's lives, because we debug, these challenges that these people go through and who they've become as a result of it.
Yes. Yeah. Because the podcast is called The Comeback Game. So what does that actually mean to you? Why did you go with that theme?
Well, really, it was actually a name that my partner came up with. And because we wanted to kind of, I guess, share the comeback story of these people. And it was kind of based on the hero's journey. You look at the movies. Movies are based on the hero's journey, which is what's so enticing.
And so are your Excite models, people.
And draws us in. And so we wanted to kind of understand, like, what are the challenges and adversities that these people have faced during their growth of their business and the success that they've had. And, who have they become through that? And everyone has a comeback game story. Like, everyone's got a comeback story. I'm sure you do yourself. Like, everyone has those adversities. And the funny thing is, Renee, is that we typically don't remember those days we were like, this is the best day of my life. Like I know I've said it, but I can't ever remember what was happening when I said it. Yet I can remember those dark days. I can remember those days that I was down and out on my knees, like bawling my eyes out, having no friggin' idea what life had in store for me next. And yet they've been the most impactful years of my life and have really shaped who I've become today.
Yep.
It's through those pressures and challenges that we actually find out who we really are and what we're really here to do.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, for me, I mean, I've had several of those, you know, on my knees moments. One being back in the corporate world when I, hit rock bottom and was depressed. And then, through 19 years of business, I mean, how many times do you end up thinking, what the hell have I done?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So I love that. So by the sounds of it, mostly it's because you're leveraging the audiences of the guests that you're having on the show. But what sort of marketing stuff are you doing at your end as well to promote the episodes?
So we're part of our content strategy. So we produce about 1,000 leads a month, thereabouts, through our other lead generation campaigns. And we typically send 2 content emails a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, to our audiences, like just value-packed content around how to grow and scale your business. And then on Sundays, we always release our podcast episodes. So all of our database, which is like, I don't know how many people we've got in there now, get an episode every Sunday. We do a bunch of stuff on Instagram as well. And we were running some paid traffic via Facebook for a while, where we actually posted the whole episode on Facebook, the full episode, and ran paid traffic to it.
Yeah.
Mainly to get people kind of familiar. And that was the first episode, mainly to get people familiar with, who we are, what we're about. And we've noticed that obviously those people come back and come back and come back and then share it. Outside of that, we've just published it. I think we're on like 22 or 25 different platforms. We were one of the first podcasts on Spotify. So we wonder
I
if
beat
we
you
can
to
get on,
it. Just not
what,
that I'm competitive or anything, but I was there first.
wonder if we can get on Spotify, and it wasn't an easy process at the time, but we're on Spotify now. Most people are posting out on Spotify, so different things like that. But I think ultimately, it comes down to what is it you're sharing. What's the reason for these guests or viewers to come back? How are you enticing them or inviting them to invite others into and around that campfire? And the guests is a huge one as well. If you have a great interview with someone that's willing to, like, typically whenever I'm interviewed on a show like yourself, I'll go and push your episode out as one of our episodes.
Yeah.
So I'll go and put your episode, because it saves us a weekly episode need to be recorded, but it's also that giving back as well, which I think is good karma.
Yeah. Nice. So hold on, I'm going to go back to something you said a few sentences ago. You said something about that you generate 1,000 leads a month. Is that right?
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Ish. Okay. Because I know my audience wants to know exactly how do you do that.
It's funny. I went to, had one of my good friends, Paul Dunn, in Melbourne last night. So Paul Dunn runs a phenomenal business called B1G1.
Yep.
If you haven't checked them out, check them out. Incredible. And we took him out for dinner last night at the Veggie Bar here in Melbourne.
Ah, yes. Melbourne Institution.
He was quizzing me on the business, and he's like, "Well, you guys are doing extraordinary." And I was like, "Really?" Like, it's what we've kind of always done and have learnt to done, and I guess have just done over and over and over again. And I remember many, many years ago, we tried to hire a bunch of marketing companies, and everyone we hired just, we found that they were only good at marketing themselves. And when it come to marketing for clients, they just couldn't produce the goods. And I remember Jess said to me, my partner said to me, "Hey, we should just be doing this ourselves." And I resisted because I'm like, Facebook algorithms, like ads, like I just want to coach people on breaking through with their inner game. Like, I don't want to get into this any techie stuff. And eventually she wore me down. It took her about 2 years, but she wore me down. And we hired this guy. Yeah, we hired this guy. We paid him 25 grand to learn how to run Facebook ads. And he spent an hour with us and gave us 8 hours of content videos. Now, some of your viewers and listeners out there might be going like, that's a lot of money. But if you look at these things here, each of these is worth $1 million each. And there's at least another one on its way at the moment. Now, there are 2 Comma Club awards that are given to people that have got one funnel that generates more than $1 million in revenue in 1 year. And we've ourselves, through our marketing team, have generated every single one of those from that $25,000 spend a few years ago.
Wow.
So we invested that money. We spent all day Friday learning, watching these videos, 8 hours. We spent all day Saturday and Sunday putting together our first campaign. We launched it Sunday night at about 11 p.m, I think it was. Went to bed, woke up, went and turned my phone on, and we had our first lead at 8 a.m. on a Monday morning. By Wednesday that week, we'd made our first sale of $25,000 into one of our programs over the phone.
Wow.
And that was the start of something massive, because it wasn't just the fact that there was no better feeling than getting a lead after having so many poor experiences in the past. But to go through that process really broke through something in certainly in me and probably in her as well, around realizing where we limit ourselves in life, where we have these fears or these beliefs that we can't do something, yet actually not even trying to do it in the first place, or not seeking out the help or advice. And this is why I'm such an advocate of coaches and consultants that can actually help you, that have actually been there and done what they're teaching you to do. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of coaches out there that don't and can't and haven't.
Yeah.
But that was about 3 years ago. And,
Wow.
we've just taken the process we learned, which was a very
So
basic
so your main strategy then is Facebook ads, is that?
Facebook, Instagram. Yeah, we're now diversifying platforms, but we've done multiple millions on Facebook, and we're like, okay, it's time to start to play around. So this year we've been playing with some more organic stuff. We've done a bunch of stuff on SEO. We've done a bunch of videos. I do a video a week, release that, a vlog per se, but it's on a particular subject. We're doing content across Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, and we're starting to see some significant momentum move there. And obviously the podcast has been something massive. We haven't necessarily seen a lot of leads come in directly from the podcast.
That's the thing, is it's so hard to track because we're not capturing email address. So yes, you might have 1 million downloads, but I don't know who they are.
Yeah. The thing we
noticed.
It's
a tricky thing with podcasting, isn't it?
Yeah, but the interesting thing is anytime my sales team speaks to someone who said, I've listened to the podcast, they're pretty much like, take my credit card. We just want to work with you guys. Like, what you do is awesome. You've got the results. So it's a very different sale than someone that's come in from a Facebook ad as well.
Yeah. So it's combo strategy. So, okay. So talk me through the funnel then. So someone sees your Facebook ad, then what happens to them?
Yeah. So we've had a very basic setup for a long time. And
Good, because I think there are so many people who think they need to overcomplicate it. Please tell us how simple it is.
Look, our strategy is super simple. Like we run ebook campaigns where we take phone numbers, email addresses, and two-step funnel. Second page is like a long form sales copy to opt in to book for a call. We get like 7 to 8% of people that come through the funnels book a call, which I've been told is pretty high. I don't know, like it's just what we do. And then, so those people book directly onto a 15-minute call, which is just basically a call to really understand who they are, what they're about. Are they a potential fit? Like, what we really want to see is, are they a good person to deal with? Like, for us, culture in our community is massive. We turn away so many people weekly from our community that want to join, because to us, having the right community and the right culture creates far more growth than having a lot of people that are paying us a lot of money. Not just growth for us, but growth for them and for their business. And so, we qualify people through that call. Are they a good person? Are they a values fit? Do they know what they want? Do they know when they want it by? And do they actually want help achieving it? Because a lot of people say they want help, but aren't actually willing to do the work. Out of all the other people that don't opt in, we typically call them up. We call them up a couple of times to connect in, just basically see if they want a hand implementing the resource that we've sent them through. And equally too, if once again speaking to them, they seem like a nice enough person and they're approachable, they're wanting some form of help, we can then look at offering them an opportunity to book in for that 15-minute call. And so my guys will jump on a 15-minute call, really kind of dive deep on finding out, as deep as you can, 15 minutes, finding out about that potential client. As I said, kind of in the background, looking for those kind of fit criteria. And if they meet those criteria, we'll book them into an hour call, what we call the game plan call, where we really dive deep on, where their business is at, where they want to go. We identify what are the biggest problems right now. And often it's not what the prospect thinks. Like, it's this whole problem symptom thing. It's like they go to the pharmacist for a Panadol, but the headache is not the issue. They've put their neck out, or they're dehydrated. And business is the same. Like, we have a set toolbox of specific models and tools that we use to not only diagnose what the issue is in the business, what requires to be fixed first, but actually how to fix that as well. Like, one of our tools, the profit approach, there's 347 different strategies we have to grow a business that affect kind of five key pillars, but we need to know which pillar to work on first. And most prospects thinks it's leads, which is often the last place we look, because leads cost money. Yeah.
Wow. Super cool. And it's old school and
it is old school.
It's old school, like phone calls, right?
Yeah.
And I think that will play, and obviously you're playing to your strengths as well. So that's obviously a strategy that works well for you because it's playing to your strengths. I'm guessing that you love having those phone conversations.
Well, I'm not. I used to. Like I don't do much in the business anymore these days,
Right.
besides presenting at the event. Like my team runs the business now without me, which
Awesome.
as awkward as it feels, that's what we teach our clients to do. Like we help our clients to triple their profit, double their time off, and build a business that works without them. And so, 12 months ago, I was like, oh, I better practice what I preach and remove myself. And now I'm in a position where I can innovate. In terms of the calls, I remember years ago, we were told that we'd never be able to hire an outsourced team to make those booking calls. And I was like, all right, well, watch me. And we hired local staff and they went okay. We hired an outsourced team, and now like our outsourced team nail it. Like their conversion rates, their conversations, the feedback we get from prospects as well is incredible. Like of how amazing these VAs are on the phone with them. They're part of my team. They're full-time employees. They're part of the team, do an outstanding job. And any prospect that has an issue with them is probably not right for us anyway, because we do leverage outsourced staff. Like they're typically phenomenal at what they do. They're a much cheaper rate than local staff, and they want the work. They're humble. They're grateful. They appreciate the opportunity to work far more than most Westerners do. And we still hire our fair share of obviously local staff as well. But they love the calls because they know that they're at the front line, I guess, pre-vetting and screening people's whose lives we're going to change through our programs.
Yep. Yeah. Wow. Super cool. So where are most of your team based?
We have, I think 7 in the Philippines.
Yeah.
And then we have one in Perth, one in Brisbane, one in Sydney, 2 in Melbourne, and 1 in Bali.
Yep. Wow. All over.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. And so, okay, this will be, I'm sure this will be interesting to a lot of people who are listening, because they've, I'm sure, struggled with hiring VAs and knowing how to do that well. So what would you say would be the keys to success in hiring and outsourcing to people like that?
Look, that's a great question. Probably use us to hire them. No, but why I say that is...
So is that part of your business model? You actually hire VAs for your clients?
Yeah. So we were fortunate enough. We put on a VA a couple of years ago who ran a team of 200 in the Philippines for Walmart. And, interestingly enough, a lot of, work from home lifestyle for the Filipinos is very attractive because they're not in traffic. They're not stuck in an office. It's a very different opportunity for them to be able to wake up and jump on their computer and do what they love to do. We spent about 3 years trying to get it right, and we hired a lot of dodgy ones. And what I mean by that is you can get, with VAs, you either get ones that are like absolutely outstanding or ones that just don't kind of cut the mark. They're not reliable. They always have internet issues or power issues, which does happen sometimes, but not as often as sometimes they might say. So I think a couple of things. I think first and foremost, like, you got to be careful hiring them off Upwork and platforms like that. But if you're going to potentially hire several and have them all complete the same task, and then you can look at, with a fine-tooth comb, the whole step of the way. What's their communication been like? What's their follow-up been like? What's their attention to detail? And having hired several at once, yes, it's a bit more money, but it saves a lot of time later down the track. You can kind of compare the whole journey, and it gives you a bit of an insight into what to expect with them.
Yeah,
I think
that's a really good key as well, because it does take a lot of time to onboard a new team member, get them up to speed, make sure they learn the business inside out and back to front, learn the processes and systems and things like that. That's a big investment for a business owner to do all of that with a new team member. So you've got to make sure that's the right person. And you would do that if you were hiring locally. You'd interview people and you've got to take it as seriously as that.
Yeah. A couple of key things.
You're not picking a name out of a hat.
Yeah. Well, there's the hiring aspect of it, but I guess that comes down to like, what's your interview process like? Typically, I don't even really know what our process is like now on the back end because the team developed it, but they go through and do the pre-vetting of everything and then submit 3 to either myself or my general manager to kind of make the final decision. But the onboarding is probably the most important, because if I look back 3 years ago, although I feel that we maybe hired some that weren't suitable, I think actually a lot of the issue was us. Like, we didn't onboard them properly. So we had potentially really great talent, but we didn't onboard them properly, which made us feel that we'd hired duds.
That's
right?
such a massive, massive key for people to really understand, because I've heard a lot of people complain about the VAs they hired, and I'm like, you're the kind of common denominator here. And tell me how you're training these people. Tell me how you're onboarding them. How, they're not mind readers. You can't expect them to know what is in your brain. So yes, I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah. Well, having a clear defined position description, but being clear on like if they could just do one task for you in the next month, that would be a game changer, right? And to some degree mitigate the cost of hiring them. What is that one thing? Like a mistake a lot of people make is hiring them and giving them everything. And they can't just do everything. Like we've got VAs now, one in particular, she is amazing. She's all across our website, our portal, all of our tech stuff, our Zapier. She does stuff that boggles my mind. Yet when we hired her 3 years ago, she had no tech background, right? She's self-taught in all of this, but because when we hired her for a client care role. We gave her one specific thing to do. And then it's like, once she got that up to speed and doing that fantastically, it's like, okay, now this and now this and now this. And what happens is you actually teach them how to learn, and you teach them how to interact with you, and you teach them how to innovate, and they become like entrepreneurs. Which are entrepreneurs in your organization, where they think for themselves, they can make decisions, and they're not just bean counters, like ticking a box every day of the week. We are lucky enough that over the last few years, we've completely systemized our whole entire business where, if we have one of our teams sick, another team member can log into their Asana account and see absolutely everything that needs to be done for the day. Like everything's got to be ticked off, all the processes and systems, the how-tos that relate to each of those steps. So that to our clients, it's seemingly there's no difference. Equally too, if we have a staff member leave, we can onboard a new staff member and have them operational in a couple of days.
Yeah.
As opposed to in the beginning, it was like 2 or 3 months it took them to get up to speed with even the most basic tasks, because we just didn't have that level of detail in place with the systems. But I think the onboarding is the most important. If you hire someone who is a phenomenal culture fit, number one, before skill set, they're a good values fit, they're easy to get along with, you have great conversations with them, there's a values alignment, and they're hungry to learn, like game changer. If you can then onboard them and be with them and spend time with them and get them up to speed, or have a team member spend time with them, they'll change your business, as opposed to hiring someone who maybe is a great skill set, but there's not a values alignment, or someone who's a values alignment without the skill set, and you just dump them into the business and say, hey, go for your life.
Yeah. Yeah, so true. So true. And I know, because when we hired our first overseas VA, we spent, I think my general manager, Stevie, she spent probably the first 3 weeks recording videos on, okay, this is how you do this task, and screen shared and videoed herself doing it, and, getting all that documentation. And, it was a painful, bloody process.
Yeah.
Those few weeks, we were just like, oh my God, is this worth it? And yes, now it's absolutely worth it, because yes, if that person ever leaves, we've got all that, it is so much faster to onboard a new team member, because we've got all of those systems documented now. And so, yeah, absolutely. So important. So, okay, we've talked about team and systems and leveraging podcasting and having a great funnel. Anything else we need to be aware of in terms of scaling our businesses? Because what did you say that you talk about? You triple your income and double your
their profits and double their time after 12 months or less. Yeah. So just to finish off the team thing. So a couple of things to note. Like if you've got listeners out there right now that are looking to hire their first team member, often a mistake business owners make is thinking they need to have all the systems and processes in place. So we kind of said that there's 5 levels of growth that we go through. The startup, or the dream up phase, which is like $0 in revenue up to around the 250. Right. Then you kind of have the startup, which is like 250 to 500,000, and then 500, 750, 750 to 1.2, and then 1.2 to 3. In that beginning stage between 0 and 250, the core focus should be around marketing and positioning of a product or service, and looking to start to systemize that once you have a proven concept. So if you're bringing a team member on board between that 0 to 250 or 0 to $500,000, it's not about systemizing the role, but as you train them on what it is you want them to do, document the training. So if I'm going to show you how to use this thing using screen share software, record it, and then get them to actually make the process around it. And that was how in the beginning we started documenting systems. It's like, I don't want to do them. I'm not the best person to do them, because I'm going to miss steps or way overcomplicate them. So instead, I'm going to teach you what I want you to do. You record it, and then you create the system. And so the only system I created in the beginning was the system for writing systems, which was a document of how to make a system. And I'm like, go and make a system like this off everything that I teach you. And that was how we started to put them in place to where we have 260, 270 systems now.
Yeah.
So be careful, business owners that want to get things perfect and systemize everything. Up until the $500,000 mark, the way that you deliver your product and service and recruit and finance and all this sort of stuff is going to change. So don't waste time on documenting and systemizing that. Just systemize the marketing and sales aspect, because typically that won't change. How you go about generating a lead or putting out content or running a sales conversation, that won't really change. What does change as you scale is how you better leverage the deliverability of your product or your service, how you hire a team, how you manage finances, all that sort of stuff. That does keep changing and evolving up until around the $1.2 million mark, if you do it right. Yet we meet a lot of businesses that are doing $5, $6, $7 million and have no systems in place.
Ooh, that sounds painful.
Which is painful to go back and put it in. So it's just something to know. A lot of people are like, oh, I need to get all this in place before I hire someone. No, like you need to sell more of your product and service. Hire someone to give you a hand with that and teach them as you go and get them to document it to keep you in your genius zone. And in those early stages, otherwise you get bogged down. This is where a lot of companies don't get over that $500,000 mark because it gets just too bogged down in complexity, which is not necessary.
Yeah. Awesome. Very, very cool. Okay. So coming back to my question about, we've covered the team and the systems and all those bits. Anything else that we need to move mastering to scale our businesses?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things. We have kind of two core tools that we recommend our clients use weekly until they exit their business. The first is what we call the profit approach. And it's staggering how many businesses don't measure KPIs. And this is like the most basic of basic. It's looking at, what's your lead flow like? What's your conversion rate like? What's the average sale of those people coming through? And how long they're hanging around for? What's the lifetime value? And then what's the profitability? And when our clients measure those, at a minimum, those key 5 things for a consistent period of time, we're able to start to see where the holes in the buckets are and where we need to implement strategies, or often several strategies, to fix that hole in the bucket. A lot of people think, oh, leads are my issue. Yet when you look at that, it's like, well, you haven't got a profitable model when you start to scale and hire staff or take on board resource. Or, the lifetime value is terrible. Like, we need to find a way for your clients to hang around longer, or we need to find a way for your clients to spend more money. And there's often a talk that I do, how we added 5 million to 5 businesses in 5 months. And it was through these 5 ways, is going through and identifying, one particular business, they were losing 1.3 million a year. And we said, well, you're doing 56,000 transactions. If we increase the transaction number by, I think it was like $22 or something like that, it equated to like 1.29 million. I was like, do you think if all you focused on for the next year was getting $22 more sale value at the counter, you could do it? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, well, that's going to be $1.3 million, right? That one strategy alone. So what are 3 things we can put in place to increase your average sale? Yet a lot of people are going, well, hey, how do I attract more clients, which typically costs more money and takes a bunch more time? So that profit approach is a very basic tool that we put in place that really, I guess, covers the whole business chassis or the business engine, from start to finish, from a revenue and a financial perspective. The second tool is what we call a task audit. And this tool is the tool that I created and used every single week until I was operationally free from the business.
Yeah.
And so it's just a basic spreadsheet where you document everything that you do, how long it takes you, and the frequency in which you do those things. Check emails, reply to emails, write a system, write some Facebook ad copy, whatever it is. And then next to it, you have docs. Do I delegate it? Meaning, do I give it to someone in my team to do? Is it something that I can delegate? Not necessarily now, but at some point in time. Do I outsource it? As in, do I hire an external marketer? Do I hire an external VA, somebody to outsource this thing to? Do I continue doing it? Because me as the visionary, as the CEO of the company, it is crucial that I'm on top of this, i.e. strategic planning, right? Financial health check. Or do I stop doing it because it's actually not adding any value and it's certainly not moving me to where I want to go? And so when you categorize them into that, anything that's in the D or the O, like obviously the stop stuff, stop it immediately. Anything that's D and D or O, then it's like, cool, when am I going to delegate this or outsource it?
Mm.
And who's going to create the system for that? And so
Yep.
what happens, the reason you do this weekly is every time like your attention is brought to all this stuff you're doing, you start to create the behavior of then passing it off, delegating it out of your plate. But every time we delegate things and we create space, what do?
Fill it
We
up.
go and take on more crap. So we do this every week until you start to notice that you're not filling your time as much. And the things that you are doing are super high leveraged. And they're the things that you want to be doing because you enjoy doing them.
Yeah.
And so this is a very, very basic tool, but we ask our clients to do it every single week until they're operationally free. Because when your attention is brought back to something continuously, like think about when you get a cut or a grade and you keep knocking it, it keeps getting sore and sore and sore and sore and sore. Eventually, you're going to do something about it.
Yeah.
Right. And so we want to bring their attention back to consistently the numbers, like what's the engine look like in the business and how they're spending their time.
Yeah.
And then we have supporting trainings and stuff that help them to set the systems up, whether it be generate leads, increase their average sale, whatever the case may be. But those two kind of key tools, everything you need from a strategic and a tactical level to grow the business. And the only thing missing is then mindset.
Yeah. How important is that?
Well, that's 80%. But yet the part that's missed most by most people.
Yeah. Yeah. My accountant will argue with you over that, but I should have you both on the show to argue over it.
But this is why accountants don't make good business coaches. And it's no disrespect, but the typical accountant runs a business by looking backwards, right? They're not financial planners, yet most business owners believe an accountant should be running a business moving forwards, but they're trained to look at things backwards and reduce your tax and make sure that you're compliant, right? Some great accountants, which there's not many, and there's no disrespect, some great accountants.
Mine is a forward thinker.
Some are forward thinkers, right? And they can look forward. Some are up to date with the profit first methodology, which is an incredible methodology for growing profit in any business. But mindset, like I'll challenge anyone on it, because you could turn up in your business and if you're pessimistic, if you're coming from a scarce place, it's going to significantly affect your risk tolerances and your ability to make the right decisions for your business. And you'll stay stuck being a control freak, never hiring staff because you can't find anyone to do things as good as you, or staff always let you down, or staff rip you off. Any other BS that we've heard or that we've created will stop you from growing your business.
Yeah. Do you think it's more important than in those early days whilst you are operationally hands-on? Because if you think about like your mindset now, if you're not actually in the day-to-day running of the business is kind of still going to run without you anyway. So is your mindset less important?
No, God, no. No, in the beginning, when you're starting up, it's really about like that whole book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, right? It's really about being okay to just take heaps of action and make lots of mistakes.
Yeah.
I remember a mentor said to me in the early stages, he said, if you want to grow twice as fast, be prepared to fail twice as quick, right? Because in the beginning, it is a matter of just throwing a whole bunch of stuff on the wall, and seeing what sticks. There's a lot less risks, so you can do that. When you're running a multi-million-dollar company, you can't be that frivolous. You can't just throw a bunch of stuff on the wall and hope something sticks. You've got people's livelihoods, you've got a lot of turnover, you've got, supplier invoices. Very quickly, the business can tank. It's as important the whole way through. The biggest thing that stops our clients from building a business that works without them is not implementing systems or KPIs or marketing strategies, because let's be honest, you can find all that stuff on YouTube. You really can, right? Equally too, that's half the challenge, is there's so much conflicting information. And so business owners believe they need to be doing 1 million strategies to generate leads rather than 1 or 2 that work consistently that they can focus their time on. And yet the thing that stops most business owners creating a business that works without them is their mindset, because they have the systems in place. Yet in order for them to actually step out and have their business work without them, they have to shift their identity. Right? And this is something that we can conceptualize what that actually means, but doing it is far different. Because you take a business owner out of their business where they've been working 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week for years, and all of a sudden put them in a situation where they don't need to do that anymore, and nothing relies on them. And there's a massive freak out that goes on because they're trained and conditioned.
Who am I without all this work to do?
Yeah. And what happens is they unconsciously or consciously sabotage the business to validate that it needs them. That it needs them. And so the biggest shift in that move as it is in any move of business, is your mindset. Like, your business will never outgrow you. And I honestly believe we never have business problems. We have personal problems that get expressed through our business.
Yeah. Agreed. Yep. And it's so interesting because there are so many parallels between being a business owner and being a parent as well. Because as you were saying that, it's kind of like you're taking your kid off to school and you're kissing them goodbye, and and then you're handing over that child to someone else. And it's like, you've got to step back now.
Yeah.
It's a similar thing when you're kind of handing over tasks to a team member. It's like, okay. Yeah. Can you step back and not be the helicopter parent?
Yeah. And you got to be prepared that your business is not going to look the same. Right? Like, you step back, mistakes are going to happen that maybe you wouldn't make. But the bigger picture is you can grow a business that works without you.
Yeah,
you can grow a business where you could be off for a month on holidays somewhere in the world with your family without your phone turned on and still make money.
Yeah.
Still serve clients. Still be making a difference.
It's like your business becomes a teenager. They're going to fuck up and make mistakes because that's what a teenager does. But you've got to trust that you're going to be there to support them through that, and so that they're going to be functioning adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, most entrepreneurs are control freaks. Like, honestly, like, we are.
It doesn't work in parenting, and it doesn't work in business.
Yeah. It's costing you growth in your business.
Yeah.
Like your inability to be behavioral flexible and to let go. And I look now, like, I remember a mentor said to me 2 years ago, he said, Barry, it should be your goal to be the most unreliable person in your business. And I was like, what? Like, that was like the complete opposite of what I felt. I'm like,
that's a very uncomfortable thing for me to hear.
Right. And now I look back and go, shit, I'm actually the most unreliable person in my company, which means my team don't come to me for the answers. They're trained, and that there's enough leadership within them, within the company, that they go elsewhere. It doesn't mean that I'm not involved. It doesn't mean that I'm not still very much involved in the direction of the company. My role is different. Like, my role now is where are we in the next 10 years, the next 20 years, the next 30 years? What's that vision? What's that innovation? And to take those ideas back to my integrator or back to my GM and have her create plans and structures to allow the team to execute on that, to steer the ship forwards. Yeah. Someone needs to look outside of the ship at the weather patterns and the weather conditions. They can't just be on the end of the steering wheel looking straight ahead. Yeah.
Very cool. I'm sure we could talk all day, Barry, but we're going to need to wrap it up. So if people want to find out more about who you are and what they do, where can they go?
thegamechangers.com.au. Equally to jump onto our podcast, The Comeback Game, on iTunes, Spotify, and any of the podcasting platforms.
Awesome sauce. Thank you so much for being on the show. It's been lots of fun to chat with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. All right. You've been listening to Leveraged and Loving It. I'm Renee Hasseldine, and I'll talk to you next week.
For all the downloads and links mentioned in this episode, head to shareyourpassion.com.au.